just need to reassemble.
What's going on, guys? RBG here, bringing you more coverage on the aforementioned Avengers Project. I know some have given up on covering this title, but you know me, I'm dedicated to talking about whatever little news I find on the Avengers Project, so the fire is still going strong. Now, I gotta say that ever since Square Enix has been getting flack for constantly showcasing bits for games that are nowhere near completion, they've sort of calmed down and taken that tight-lipped route with certain details they want to reveal. This seems to be the case with the Avengers Project, since we haven't got any related media since it was announced in 2017. It wouldn't be so bad if Marvel Entertainment and Square didn't promise to give an update the following year, so fans were well within their rights to be agitated by the lack of info for this title. But it looks like we have some more news regarding the available job listings. But before we talk about that, I want to remind the viewers that this video is sponsored by Beautiful Halo. If you're a man or woman of culture who loves anime, games, and dank memes, then I highly recommend checking out their merch. They have a wide variety of stylish hoodies and other cool apparel that'll have your friends mad jealous. By using this promotional link, you get 5% off any of the $49 purchases or higher. So slide on over to beautifulhalo.com. The link will be in the description box below. Now, admittedly, I thought we'd get a new trailer at last year's E3 and the VGAs, but there was no Avengers Project in sight. But we did get some Marvel-related reveals in the form of Ultimate Alliance 3, a title that's been in demand since the last generation of gaming. It looks to be a promising game with Team Ninja manning the development helm, and the design choice is refreshing. I think we suffered some severe burns after hearing it was going to be exclusive to the Switch, considering the fact that its predecessors were multi-plats. I know PC modders would have had a field day with it, but regardless, it looks hype and it's motivated me to pick up a Nintendo Switch just so I can play it. But anyways, after Avengers Endgame hit theaters, I expected Square Enix to capitalize on the hype and actually give us another trailer. This has undoubtedly been a very good time for Marvel, with the Avengers Endgame breaking countless records, so it only seemed right that Square would release something for the Avengers Project. But once again, fans were left with nothing to go on. That's until a few days ago we found out what the story's tone and gameplay will entail via Crystal Dynamics job listings. Apparently they're looking for a narrative director. They'll be tasked with the direction of the game's cinematics and gameplay experience, and they have to be an expert in collaborating across design and narrative disciplines to make memorable, emotional, and cinematic experiences. The narrative director will work in partnership with the game director and art director to create the narrative tone of the project. They'll also work with other writers, designers, and artists to develop a high-quality narrative AAA gameplay experience. So this shows that they're very adamant about making this title very story-driven, which is a huge plus considering we don't get too many Marvel-related games that go out of their way to give you that grand AAA story. They've been at the mercy of rushed deadlines for years by third-party developers, but it looks like Square is trying to continue where Insomniac left off with their Spider-Man game, which was a worthy candidate for Game of the Year. Speaking of Game of the Year, another thing Crystal Dynamics wants is someone who has the ambition to create a Game of the Year title. So this further proves that Square is in it to win it with this project. I can imagine that they're squeezing out all the creative juices they can to give us some solid concepts we've never seen before. But anyways, let's talk about the gameplay, because I think that's what will really decide if this will be Game of the Year material. Some of the other design responsibilities include, but are not limited to, enemy AI, combat behavior, stealth, player weapons and tools, cover, and melee-based mechanics. They further emphasize that the applicant should be up to date on current industry trends in regards to the modern combat design for third-person action-adventure games. So don't expect something too innovative from the Avengers Project. What we should expect is that it'll highlight the capabilities of each Avenger and give them stages that are tailored to their skill sets. Like when I hear things like stealth and cover systems, characters like Captain America, Hawkeye, and Black Widow immediately come to mind. Like, I think the game is going to be the kitchen sink when it comes to the many gameplay elements it's going to inject into it. It doesn't have to be something too advanced, but just enough to get us hyped. Anyways, there are still no details on when the game will be released, let alone what the official title will be, but I think we're getting close to a reveal. Moving on, I want to talk more about Ultimate Alliance 3 because that seems to be the game that Marvel is focused on promoting the most. That's probably one of the reasons why we haven't seen any more promotions for the Avengers Project, because they probably want to have everyone's attention focused on one title at a time. Like I noticed when Spider-Man PS4 was out, there was a lot of money put into its marketing. Anyways, gameinformer will be providing coverage for UA3 for the entire month, featuring some of their impressions and characters who are confirmed on the roster. They basically give a general consensus that the gameplay will be very familiar to what you've experienced in the first 2 games. And I think everyone pretty much expected that going in, with some of the things being a little different, like the dungeon crawler perspective that's pretty much been a thing since the X-Men Legends game seems to be done and away with. And now they have this new heroic cam mode which really wasn't elaborated on, but now we have more info on how it'll work. Game Informer suggests that there's a particular learning curve once you progress through the game. You essentially have to pay close attention to the characters you have on your screen through the colored circles under their feet. I didn't think much of it other than it being a common trope for when you're playing online or locally to track the character you're playing with, but it looks like Team Ninja is upping the chaos, which is something I thought they were going to do, because I know they work on games like Hyrule Warriors and Fire Emblem Warriors, and those games are pretty infamous for sending hordes of enemies at you at once. When you have these massive waves of enemies, your characters are equipped with some crazy, insane special attacks. It's safe to assume that we'll be getting that with UA3, since Team Ninja is a Japanese development team that loves going balls to the walls with over-the-top action. And I'm all for it, man. Like, the previous installments were already awesome, but having twice the amount of jobbers on screen to run through with all the different Marvel team-ups is going to add a lot of replayability. Now, while I'm happy to hear that the chaos will double, the people at Game Informer aren't too thrilled about that, noting that the visuals can be so chaotic that it can be hard for the players to feel invested in what's going on around them. And I somewhat agree, because that's kind of been the case with the previous installments, but I also think that was largely due in part to the overhead perspective that I mentioned earlier. Things can get really crazy and sometimes characters can get mixed up since they're so small. But I don't think it'll be too much of an issue for me since we have better controls of the camera. Game Informer notes that while they hope that Team Ninja tones down the chaos and explosions, they fear that it will compromise the overall experience because it could potentially lose that hyper-stylized vibe. So we'll just have to wait and see what Team Ninja will do as they continue fine-tuning things that need to be worked on. One of the things Game Informer said they enjoyed is the teaming element. They love how the characters feel, and they particularly harped on how good the animations look for each hero, and how it makes each character feel distinctly different. We pretty much knew that upon observation of the trailers we got, and I particularly like how there seems to be a lot of detail going into things like team attacks, where you see different elements being mixed like fire and tornadoes. With that said, Game Informer says that they're not too thrilled with the level progression systems, saying that the series doesn't feel like it's evolved, and that each character is limited to 4 powers. I was dreading this because it seems like something we've experienced with Ultimate Alliance 2, where things seem to be more streamlined compared to earlier entries like the Legends series and Ultimate Alliance 1. The role-playing elements in UA2 were pretty much non-existent, like there was no using a hero skill set to access new locations or defeat certain bosses. And Ultimate Alliance 3 looks like it's going to be very thread-based with minimal RPG elements and level ups. I hope that is something that Team Ninja works on a little more, because I don't want it to be another UA2. I want something similar to UA1 that takes what the main game did right and widely expands upon it. But with that said, let's talk about the roster, because it's something that will make or break this game in my opinion. UA3 is said to have over 24 characters, roughly averaging around 30 if you include characters who are basically 2-in-1 like Rocket and Groot. That's a little lower than the previous installments. Like, I think UA1 had about 39 characters, including the ones who were system exclusive characters that were eventually all available on the remastered versions. And UA2 had 34. Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 has a total of 27 characters consisting of Black Panther, Black Widow, Captain America, Captain Marvel, Crystal and Lockjaw, Daredevil, Deadpool, Doctor Strange, Drax, Falcon, Gamora, Groot and Rocket, Hawkeye, Hulk, Iron Fist, Iron Man, Miss Marvel, Nightcrawler, Scarlet Witch, Spider-Gwen, Miles Morales Spider-Man, Normal Spider-Man, Star-Lord, Storm, Thor, Venom, Wasp, and Wolverine. That's a pretty decent amount of characters, but I really hope they give us more heroes who aren't necessarily mainstream. I know Marvel Entertainment has been hell-bent on making their more recent products feel like the MCU with the designs and the overall aesthetics, and since they're becoming more open to using the X-Men after the Big Fox acquisition, maybe give us more of those characters besides Wolverine. Nonetheless, I hope we get some DLC down the line for a reasonable price. But with that, I'd like to end this video. What are your thoughts on the job listings for the Avengers Project? Do you think they've been so quiet because their focus is on making the Avengers Project a Game of the Year contender? And what do you think of Game Informer's coverage on Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3? Let me know down in the comment section below. If you guys want to stay updated on the Avengers Project, you can become a member of this awesome site that posts news coverage and discussions on the title. The link will be in the description box below. As always, I ask that you like or dislike the video. It doesn't have to be a thumbs up, it can be a thumbs down. Any feedback is good feedback and will only help me improve on my channel. But if you really enjoyed the video, it will help me out tremendously if you share it on social media outlets with all your friends and followers. Sharing really makes a difference. But this is your boy RBG signing out on another video. I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.